So I'm James Aldano's partner, business partner at Duet. So I actually came across an NEMT service very personally. So my mom actually missed her doctor's appointment, cardiologist appointment, like about 7 years ago because the driver she hired was an hour late. I was so frustrated, and then it didn't really like dawn on me the service until a couple of years later, and I was passing by a vehicle, a medical transport van. I saw a driver writing something on their clipboard. So I just struck conversation, and then they said, "Oh yeah, we manage everything using clipboard." I said, "Oh yeah, that's why my mom like was an hour late." So in
Yeah.
any case, I said, okay, everybody I know in the Bay Area, we're based in San Francisco Bay Area in California. So I was everybody I know in the Bay Area is engineers. So we can actually help. So I couldn't be more wrong. Once we got into this market, we realized technology is one component of the whole services. So later on, actually, 3 years ago, we focused on two things. One is technology to provide dispatching scheduling solutions for NEMT providers. Another one is really back office support. We have a remote dispatchers help our customers, some of our customers managing their operations. I personally got involved in 6 different NEMT operations in 5 different states, and they are very different. All of them, they can come from like 90% broker trips all the way to like 100% hospital discharges. So I take calls, schedule trips, and interact with various clients. So I'm very excited to share my experience with everybody, and also to learn from Henry, James, and all of you. So that's about me.
Great. So thanks, Jing. Thanks, Harry. And guys, this is meant to be a discussion. I'm going to be asking questions, but feel free to drop your own questions in chat. And also feel free, we'll have some time sort of toward the end, we'll pause for questions, and then at the very end, we'll also have time for questions. So we want to make this as interactive as we can.
Sure.
We posted a link to, Harry and Jing's website, so you can check those out at your own leisure. So this webinar is, or discussion, whatever you want to call it, is really about how to start and grow a private pay business. And when we say private pay, we're not talking about a contract with a nursing home or something. We're talking about people in the community, like Jing's mom, my grandmother. Families paying for the patient or the rider or their family relative to go to and from with medical transport. And when I first got into NEMT, I thought, oh, this must be, the majority of the market. And turns out in many cases, it's, people aren't doing them at all, or it's, 5% of a given service's trips. So we were really excited to meet Harry and kind of learn some things about how people can grow this kind of service. So I guess my first question, and let's start with Jing here, is, let's say I bought my first NEMT vehicle. I'm ready to get started. I'm thinking, do I want a broker, do a direct contract, private pay? What do you think? Can I start with private pay?
Yeah, I would say absolutely you should. If you're brand new to the market, if you just get your first vehicles, like new providers, there are different categories, right? I have met providers who actually have been NEMT drivers or dispatchers for a few years, and they really know the market. They know how to get their trips. So when they started, they can get trips on day one, or contracts on day one. Whereas there are other group of providers, new providers, they actually, for various reasons, they want to get into this market. They don't have a existing knowledge or experience or contact networks in this market. They really start from scratch. So those actually providers I would highly recommend they go after like private pays. There are like a couple of benefits, really great benefits for private pays. One is you get paid really fast. So most of those private pays, they're credit cards or cash and check. You are getting paid either like on the same day, like as soon as the trip completed, or actually sometimes like the day before. So you don't have to chase the invoices or like dealing with like 930, 960 payment terms. So that's one. And the second benefit is actually private pay is relatively, I would say, low threshold to
Uh,
to
uh,
provide
I'm
the
up
service.
the bank real quick.
So So for like most of the contract paid trips, the brokers or hospitals or nursing homes, those contract pays, they want to see a ton of paperwork. Your like certification of vehicles, driver background check, especially your insurance, right? They want to see like 1 million, 2 million, sometimes 3 million liabilities. And then so if you're brand new, don't have any experience, they probably don't even want to work with you. So like, and obviously, if you're one, it's not really good timing to approach those organizations. So whereas private pay clients and typically family members or patient themselves, they're a whole lot of easier to work with, and you don't have to give them a tons of paperwork to prove you are available. I mean, obviously, I think you should really cross all your T's and dot all your I's, get all the license, insurance, and the trainings just for your own safety and security purposes. But you don't have to show all those to the clients. And also, private pay is a really good way to build your experience, right? So like a couple of days ago, actually, I met with one provider, and he told me when he started, and he actually didn't even know how to tie the wheelchairs. He has watched like 2 YouTube videos to on the same day of the trip to figure out. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. You should definitely your homework, right? So, but like private pay clients are a whole lot of more easier, like whole lot easier to work with, and then so you can build your experience with all sort of service levels, transportation trips, and also build your brand or name recognitions in your market, and you so that you can leverage it to get the contracts with hospitals, brokers, or nursing homes. Yeah, so I would say go with private pay.
So great. Okay, my first vehicle, private pay makes sense. What if I already have 5 vehicles and I've only done broker trips, my margin's not so good. I want to start, boost my margin a little bit. Is it worth my time to get into private pay?
I always feel like the question whether I should go after private pay is not really the right question. I think the right question is really how much time, uh, like my energy as well as investment I should put in private pay. I always feel like first of all, like the old saying is you don't put your eggs in one basket, right? So like
Yep.
I've seen like a lot of some customers, they 90 or 100% of their trips from one broker. That's really, I mean, for me, like that's actually a very risky like profile, because this market, NEMT market really changed a lot. I mean, brokers, they can get acquired, they can merge. The new brokers may not like your rate, and then you may not like the rate they offer too. So all of a sudden, and they can take away your trip overnight or in a few days. So that's really devastating. And then nursing homes, if you contract with nursing homes, and nursing homes are notoriously known to change owners all the time. The new owners can terminate your contract, or like they can actually bring in their own favorite providers. So
Yep.
I would always suggest you guys, no matter how new or how experienced you are in this market, always go after private pays. You want to have I would say, rule of thumb, like at least 10% of your revenue, your sales trips coming from private pay patients. I mean, if you're experienced in this market, established in this market, I think actually you have more resources to get more channels to get private pays. For instance, drop your flyers at nursing homes or hospitals, like all those your contract, they can actually be a quote unquote your marketing person for you, because hospitals, they always want to push the payment to the families or patients. So like they will always ask patients, oh, do you have a right? Can you pay the right to go back home for discharge? So those, and also nursing homes is especially actually I would say assisted livings and senior homes. Those are actually most of them that their members are private pay members. So a lot of their trips coming from private pays. So I would actually, for the existing providers, I would recommend them still diversify your revenues and invest a certain like amount of energies or resources in private pay.
Got it. So one concern I hear sometimes about getting into private pay is whether the local market is any good. Maybe there's a lot of brokers, they just the population is spread out, they're not sure. Maybe a question for Harry, and then we can hear from Jing. What like what's the best sort of market you're looking for in private pay, or are there certain markets where you just cannot do private pay?
Yeah, I mean, every market has like
मेहनत दिखाते
customers
हैं
who would pay from a private perspective. From an advertising perspective, obviously, most of our private pay outreach is through Google advertising, right? So we use Google Search, Google Performance Max, YouTube ads to reach those customers who are potentially interested in medical transportation, right? So certain markets, there's always going to be someone interested in the service. The question is, can you scale
Hmm.
in those markets, right? So certain markets, certain strategic things you have to realize or competitive factors you have to understand in your market are going to be, do those people have access to transportation if they don't have their own vehicles, right? So if you're in a market, let's say like Chicago or
Right.
sometimes even New York City, in that closer area to the city, if people don't have a ride, right, they're going to hop on the subway or hop on the bus to get to their medical appointment. Unless they have a wheelchair, then that kind of takes them out of that particular category. But those are all competitive factors in certain markets. And then there's population size, right? So when we talk about reaching out to customers through Google advertising, is always a question of how many people can I reach? So an ideal market is, from a Google advertising perspective, is to have at least 1 million people or more in your marketplace. And that's where you can kind of get consistent rides through Google. Not to say that rural areas aren't great. There are still ways to reach customers who are interested or potentially be interested in medical transportation um, through Google, even if they're in a rural area. But kind of looking holistically, you want to have some of those factors in place where I don't have access to public transportation. I have 1 million plus people in my service area. Those are uh, pretty good things to have in place or have in your market to kind of take advantage of Google advertising for sure.
Makes sense. What's like your favorite market you've ever seen somebody advertise in?
Uh, believe it or not, Bay Area is a great market for medical transportation. You have to think about financially, do people have the money to afford the services, right? Because if you live in San Francisco, you can afford the services. And then my other favorite market right now would have to be, it's kind of a tie between Texas and Tennessee at the moment.
Hmm.
Those are really, really good markets because you have obviously huge highway systems and you have large areas that are spread out. Right? So when we talk about being spread out, let's say somebody has to get from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
પૈસા ને
I have a question.
માર્કેટિંગ કરવા માટે અહીંયા રૂરલ એરિયામાં
Sorry, could you guys make sure you mute here? I can mute. There we go. Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I was saying, like, when we talk about being spread out, right? So if somebody in Tennessee, I'm just giving an example, Murfreesboro to Nashville, where
Mhm.
most of the doctor's offices are, it's about a 45-minute trip, right?
Mhm.
So um, somebody having access to someone who can take them 45 minutes both ways,
Uh-huh.
or they can reach out to a medical transportation company to get them from point A to point B. So those type dynamics are really important in the market, whatever market you're in, to kind of understand those competitive factors, which are going to play huge, and then just some of those dynamics in terms of population size. But those are my favorite markets that I've kind of done business with. Where when I mean favorite, I mean like, hey, we've done an advertising campaign, and on Tuesday we start the campaign. By Wednesday or Friday, they've got 2 or 3 rides already booked
Uh-huh.
because the market needs it, right? So
Right, yeah.
those are some of my favorite markets for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right. So thanks, Harry. Question for Jing. What is, let's say I want to get into private pay for the first time. What is the bare minimum I need? Like, do I need a website? Do I need like a Google profile? Do I need a Yelp page? Or how important are those things?
Yeah, actually, this is a really good question. So I would say, actually, the first thing you ask yourself, I mean, how, like, I'm brand new, right? Like, nobody knows how do people find me? Nowadays, most people just go on Google, right? I mean, in the Bay Area, probably like a chat GPT as well. But in any case, Google is really important. I would say you need like a marketing toolkit. I call it marketing toolkit. So what's going into this toolkit? Website. You need a website. You need to set up your Google business profile. Okay. And then so people can find you on Google. And then Facebook page. There are a lot of actually private pays that family members will pay their grandchildren's or children's will pay their like a parents or grandparents trip, right? So those younger folks are on Facebook page, Facebook too. And then you need to have a business card, like old-fashioned way still works, right? Like your business card to everybody you see, and then flyers and brochures. I would typically for new providers, I would say, hey, like just go around, do a tour of your market, go hit all the nursing homes, senior facilities everywhere, like even coffee shops, put your flyers there, right? So you would never know where, like where you can get the trips. And then I would say, in terms of website, Harry, you probably have more also say on this website. The quality of website actually makes a difference. Like, go ahead.
Absolutely. So you have to think about private pay as like, hey, it's completely different from brokers, right? Brokers know the industry, they have the providers, they give you a call and they set up the ride. So from a private pay perspective, you have to understand that you're dealing with people who may not know about the industry, don't know about your business. So the website is the face introducing them to the industry and to your company, right? So you have to explain, what the service is, how does it operate, right? You have to have a booking feature on your web, and it's just a form, right? It's a form where people can submit their origin and destination. You provide them with a quote afterwards, and they can determine whether they want to use your service or not. So those are the things that are critical from a website perspective. Make it look professional, of course, but definitely you want to make sure you have a way for people to request rides. A website is 24/7, so they can put those inquiries in no matter what time of the day. So those are important factors. And then another kind of good thing to get involved in terms of passing out flyers is community health fairs, right? They're going to be huge in your community. Like you can type in whatever city and type in, I don't know, San Francisco community health fair or something like that. You'll pull up a bunch of different stuff. And they have, different dates throughout the year, but you definitely want to get involved in your community. And those are going to be boots on the ground. Hey, I've got a booth or I've got a table set up in my own community and I'm passing out flyers to people who are interested in health. And you're really kind of killing two birds with one stone because you'll have facilities who are there at the community health fair presenting to individuals, but you also have people in the community who may need rides themselves. So definitely that's something you can do today, go Google search your health fairs in your area and kind of see how you can get involved for sure.
Yeah, and I talked to a provider who he said he got so many private pay rides by doing like direct contracts with nursing homes. And then he just like if his drivers would have a stack of business cards and they'd give one to the patient and be like, hey, if you're at home and you need a ride, in a month from now, just give us a call. And he'd sort of use it as a lead gen channel. So it's amazing how many different ways there are to reach these people.
Yeah. And also for the website,
go ahead.
I just want to comment on website. I've seen like a lot of really bad website. I have to say, like they just have put a picture there, their name there. I have no idea where they operated. I can be in California calling them, which is in Texas or New York. That's one. Second of all, like some website, they don't even have their contact information visible or noticeable on their landing page, which means I have to click, like figure out, do some Sherlock Holmes work,
Exactly.
3-click. To find that account number or emails.
Yep.
So, I mean, you want to make sure your website like very clear about your brand, how people can contact you, big letters for your phone numbers, emails, or booking the buttons. Also, what kind of service do you support, right? So like ambulatory trips, door-to-doors or wheelchairs, stretchers, so people can know whether you're the right providers for them or not. And then your service area, are you operating in California, which part of California, or like Texas or Tennessee, etc. So people know actually you are actually close to them or not, because that's ding ding ding, that's pricing, right?
Yeah.
So in
And a
any
lot of
case,
people, yeah, for sure. And a lot of people think, oh, I gotta get a website. I need to spend $3 or $4 grand on getting the website. You don't. We actually have we have a template of 10 to 12 templates of websites that we give to our clients and we say, hey, choose between these templates because we've seen in the marketplace that most NEMT websites all have the same formulas, right? You have a homepage, you have an about us page that talks about the company. Jing mentioned the services page would kind of list out, wheelchair, ambulatory, hospital discharge, that type of stuff, what type of services you provide, and then the booking page. So there's really 4 to 5 pages that you need to have for your website. And if you're able to choose aesthetically what do you want it to look like, you can help lower your costs. So that's what we do for our clients. We have the 10 to 12 templates, you choose from those, and then we have a web developer on our team who actually builds the website for you. So it kind of helps bring costs down because if you go to a web developer and say, hey, build me something from scratch, I want custom this, I want custom this.
Oh yeah.
Like if you want a custom suit, it's going to cost you. But if you go to, Macy's, right, it's a little bit cheaper, right? So think about some of those things from a marketing perspective where you can not only get what you need or get your branding out there to your customers, but also save from a monetary perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. And along those lines, Harry, what are your thoughts on, like, obviously you can go out and, do all this marketing yourself as an NEMT service. You have to sort of learn a bit and put some time and effort into it. When do you think it makes sense to engage a professional sort of on the marketing side, and for how long, like, what does that relationship typically look like?
Yeah, so I know there's always DIYers, right? And even in my own business, when I first started, I was like, I can do this myself, right? And then I was like, this is a learning curve. So I started to seek out help on certain things that I wasn't an expert at. And that's what you'll have to kind of decide in your business. Like, if marketing is something that you're interested in or something that piques your interest, you're probably going to end up DIYing it. But for people who are like, hey, I want to focus on these particular aspects of my business, there's marketing agencies, right? There's not too many marketing agencies who specialize in NEMT, but we provide that service for our clients, right? So if you want to get into marketing, we always tell people start with what we call warm audiences, right? So Google is a search platform. So we say warm audience because those are people who are searching for the service. So if I'm at the hospital, I'm searching, hospital transportation, right? That becomes a warm audience, right? So I'm not looking for cold people who are like, oh, I may be interested, I may be not interested. Google is probably one of the cheaper platforms to reach warm audiences because it's a pay per click platform. So if you want to start there, if you're just starting, or if you have been in the business a while, I always say dedicate. Obviously, you want to create a budget first, an advertising budget, and then you want to say, okay, based on my budget, I want to advertise for 60 to 90 days, right? So if you start 60 to 90 days, you're probably spending anywhere between $20 to $25 a day. So you're probably around $500 to $700 per month.
Mm.
And if you say, okay, if I got, two grand and I say, like, I want to spend $2 grand on marketing this year, you can kind of spread that out over 3 or 4 months. And you can start with your Google advertising because that's going to give you your hottest leads, people who need the service right then and there. It's not more of a, hey, I saw this ad this month and then 2 months later I got a dental appointment that I need to get to. I would definitely start there. In terms of from a timing perspective, so because it's a warm audience, it is going to move pretty fast. So if you don't have like your vehicle, tagged, ready to go, I would say you at least want to start your advertising efforts a week before you get your vehicle on the road. Now, if you got your vehicle on the road already, then hey, you just need to go ahead and get started with getting everything set up, which is what we do for our clients, and then we can get you rolling on the advertising side.
Great. And what sort of, you laid out some numbers, like maybe I'm spending what, 2K a year, $500 a month or something. What kind of ROI am I looking at as an NEMT service spending $500 a month?
Yeah, exactly. So right now we are on the low side. We average around 5 to 10 private pay rides a month for some of the smaller areas. Again, it's going to be depending on your population size. But if you want to really get a return for your investment, you're going to get anywhere between 2 to 2.5x on your investment. So if you spend $600 in advertising for that particular month, obviously a 2x would be, hey, I've got $1,200 worth of private paid ride, right? And that does take time, right? It's not something that's, hey, I advertise on Tuesday, 30 days from now, I'm going to have. You have to look at your advertising from an annual perspective, right? Because even though someone sees your ad today, they may convert the next month, right? So it's all about building that brand awareness, building out your business, building out those people who are interested in your business, and just growing from there. But always think about your marketing from an annual perspective, and that's where you're going to see the 2 to 2.5x returns.
Got it. And question for Jing. How can you take someone who, they click a Google ad, you're paying for that, they take a ride with you. How do you convert that person into a long-term paying customer for your service? So you don't have to keep paying to advertise to them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna address this question. I also want to follow up with what Henry said. I think private pay trips, it's not just one trip or like a round trip. Actually, there are like I would say two different type of private pay trips. One is the recurring trips. That's really the most desirable trips you can get. So typically those are dialysis patients, chemo patients. They need to go to treatments, dialysis centers like 3 times a week. So like our customers always tell us, hey, like my dialysis patients is like they're not just one trip. Okay, they are like 6 trips a week, and then 1,200 trips a year. So like they are my VIPs, they are my royalty treatments. So we want to keep them as much as possible. So and then there's always one-off trips, right? Like so I think actually, like for instance, everybody has like a birthday parties or like a Christmas, Thanksgiving dinners. They want to attend the weddings or even funerals, right? Sometimes go to airport. I mean, like we even have like customers from colonoscopy exams. They can take Uber back home. They have to use professional providers like our customers, so NEMT providers. So those are actually all like one-off trips. So those are all great resources. And Henry can help you get like one recurring trips or one recurring patients, that's totally like worth it.
Yeah.
So
And then,
those are, pardon?
and I was going to say, so on the private pay side, every interaction counts, right? So if you have like, and what I mean by that is, let's say you're picking up John, right? He's going to a skilled nursing facility, right? You drop him off. The trip doesn't end when you drop him off, right? You've just been given an introduction into the facility. So now go in, introduce yourself, you drop business cards off, right? So that's when you start to build upon, hey, I've got private pay trip, but I've turned this into some type of relationship that I've built with those facilities. So it always comes back to taking advantage of those opportunities, even if it's on the private pay side. There's still an opportunity there to reach out to the facilities and get in their good graces to create more business for yourself.
Oh yeah,
That's a great point.
Yep.
Yeah, people talks, right? Like
Exactly.
they can tell their friends, and then they
And,
can tell their family members. Yeah,
yeah,
everything.
now
So
you have to give them a good experience, because if you give them a bad experience, that's also going to they're going to communicate
yeah,
that as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
I know. But that's back to James' original question. So there's so many touch points in providing a private pay trips. So like you want to make sure you get all your like different touch points right. So for instance, if you get private pay, you want to make sure your vehicles are like in good shape, are very clean. And then like when patient on board, you need to hire like either you or your drivers need to be very friendly, go extra miles to make sure the patient is comfortable and happy in your vehicles. And then like I know people even always constantly say, hey, is the temperature too high, too low? Like, are you okay with music? And sometimes if the patient's in a good mood, you can strike a conversations. I mean, because sometimes I take calls for our customers, like providers, and I always get calls saying, "Oh yeah, I really like this driver, like James. He's so good, and we had a good chat. He speaks my language, my dialects, and then like he reminds my brother. So this is a really good touch point, right? Good impression." And then the second part, I would say, private pay actually has a whole lot of nuances going into the payments, right? Because I mean, if you sometimes like the payment, if you have I say bariatric stretcher trips, which cost like $500 to $1,000, like a payment. Sometimes like one party may not be enough, right? They will like all the family members will kick in like $200 each. Then you need to handle that split payment. And
Yeah.
then some folks saying like we always have like a little bit senior folks, they don't like credit cards. They insist using check or cash. So you have to be prepared to do that. And then like if you are very fortunate to get like recurring trips through like marketing like Henry's effort, then what you want to do, you want to keep those recurring like trips customers, because they are actually, like I mentioned, it's not just one trip or two trips. They are like 1,200 trips a year. So what you want to do, you probably want to offer them some discounts, some subscriptions. For instance, you say, hey, if you go with me like the entire month or always, so I'll give you a 10% discount or $5 like reduced rate. And then like all those, all you can pay upfront like 10 trips. And then like just we have 10%, 20% discount, etc. So you want to captivate those audience on your. Okay,
Makes
so
sense.
that's a couple.
Great. So what is that makes total sense. What is the bare minimum I need to get started in private pay? Like, can I just get my Honda Civic and go out there? Do I need a wheelchair van? Do I need a, gurney team capable of transporting these people? What do you think?
Yeah, I can start. So I think it really depends, right? I hate to say there's no black and white
Oh
answers
no.
in this market all the time. So if you are using like a Honda Civic, you have a sedan, you're going there. So remember, you are also competing with other like taxi service, town cars, or Uber, Lyft to some extent. So that's actually a pretty competitive market. So make sure you differentiate yourself first of all. Like for instance, your drivers for NEMT providers, the drivers are able to go out of the vehicles, go into somebody's facility or like a house, and then walk or probably hold the patient, like walk with them all the way to the vehicles, help them get inside the vehicles, whereas Uber and Lyft drivers cannot do that. So
Yeah,
their insurance does
for
not
sure,
cover
for
that.
sure. You definitely
Yeah.
want to differentiate yourself with your service, and that door to door service is huge, especially in the elderly community. Like it's not just, hey, drop me off on the curb, get out. You walk into the facility, right? These people need help getting in and out of the vehicle, getting into the facility. I've even seen some NEMT drivers, bring them up to the front desk, tell the service person their name. They have paperwork and stuff like that. So you definitely want to differentiate yourself through your service. And obviously, your market research is going to tell you what population needs the most help. So if it's the wheelchair community or people who are elderly in your community who need the most help, then obviously you want to invest in a wheelchair
Yeah.
accessible vehicle and stuff like that for sure.
I've heard a couple people say they had good luck with wheelchair vehicles because, the much harder for a family member to give someone who really needs a wheelchair a ride.
Yeah.
And the people in a stretcher may be in sort of a skilled nursing facility that already has a contract of some sort.
Yeah. The more tools you have at your exposure, the bigger your market becomes, right? If you don't have a wheelchair accessible van, that limits you, right? But if you have
Right.
a wheelchair accessible van and you have like, let's say you have a stretcher van, right? Your market starts to broaden a lot larger,
Yeah.
especially on the private pay side for sure.
Yeah. And I've heard you both say that sort of customer service is maybe the most important part of keeping these private pay customers. I think actually, Harry, you told me another time that like, you'd see people put, water bottles or snacks or something in the car just to really go the extra mile. Um, Jing, is there anything you like, how do you make sure your drivers deliver that level of service as an owner who's not necessarily in the car every time?
Yeah, so driver training is really important in this case. So you want to make sure your driver understand the type of service they provide, right? I mean, most of NEMT, I would say all of NEMT providers, they have some kind of handbooks and training protocols for their drivers. And I would say this is a more like apprenticeship business, right? So new drivers always tag along with the experienced ones or the owners, and they learn the ropes, and then they become independent. And then that's one. Second of all, actually back to how can you get your names there when you are brand new to the market. I actually highly recommend you put your logos, your phone numbers, and then the type of service you support on your vehicles. It doesn't have to be that full vehicle wrap. It's like just the stickers and everything, very big ones. And then I even tell our customers like the first couple, like first week or every weekend, just take your vehicles to the busiest areas in your city, like Walmart parking lot, whatever. I mean, like shopping centers, just park there or like take a loop and then just show it, right? Drive it around, and then so neighborhood hospitals, like just show it. People will actually take pictures of it because for
Yep.
future reference. Yeah,
Yep.
so those are things. I've seen people who actually even go extra miles. I remember there's one provider showed me like their vehicle photos. I said, oh, by the way, your NEMT like spelled reversed. Like it's hard to read. He said, oh, no, actually we did it in purpose because if we follow a car, right? If we drive and then the car in front of us, they will see our in their rear mirrors. They
Oh,
will
wow.
actually see the correct. I said, oh my God, I never thought about that. So that's how far like some providers can go to make sure people aware of them, right? So
Yep.
so those are the things actually you want to do for private pay. Yeah.
So what's the biggest challenge? We've talked a lot about how good how good private pay can be, how lucrative it can be. Talked about how you can succeed by having really good customer service. But what trips people up? What can go wrong in private pay that you have to, what makes it more difficult than maybe some of these other, broker contracts, besides the marketing angle?
Yeah, I mean, there's competition, right? We know NEMT is a growing market. Everybody's aware of, the annual growth rate of the industry, right? So there's always new providers coming into the marketplace, right? So you have to establish your brand early and different, like we said, differentiate yourself early on in the process to kind of be able to continuously attract customers and also retain your customers as well. So there's always pressures of bringing your rates down and stuff like that that you have to be aware of, and competitive factors because the marketplace is always shifting. There's always new rules, right? So you have to be aware of those and being willing to change is going to be one of the biggest hurdles you'll face in this particular industry for sure.
Uh-huh. And Jing, how about on the operational side? What are the challenges?
Operation side, I would say there are a couple of things actually folks can do. One is actually private pay. A lot of actually folks unless recurring trips, that's different. Like the one-off trips, family members don't really know the first thing they want to know the price. Okay, so like they always ask, oh yeah, first of all, the call comes in like, can you support a wheelchair? Okay, and then wheelchairs also comes with different flavors, right? They call the transport chair, which is folding chair. You can actually literally send a sedan and then to take the patient and put the wheelchair, fold the wheelchair and put it in the trunk. And then there's a regular, like those manual wheelchairs.
Sure.
And then there's a powered wheelchair called scooter. Like you want to make sure that when you take the calls, you want to make sure you are able to support those like very extra wide wheelchairs or the scooter powered wheelchair scooters, or like sometimes the patient weight can be very important, right? So for stretcher and wheelchairs, like 300-pound, 400-pound, even sometimes 500-pound patients, and not necessarily all the providers are able to support those trips.
Right.
So those
Yeah.
actually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I've heard stories of like, you're doing a private pay ride, the patient's wheelchair breaks, and what do you do? Like, oh my God. Hopefully you have some kind of dispatching setup where you can quickly look and say, okay, we have another vehicle capable of, handling that, and we'll bring a powered wheelchair out if that's what the patient needs. But
Yeah.
it seems like there are a lot of like sort of handling, or oh, there are stairs here that I forgot to tell you about. You need to be able to get the patient up and down. It feels like sort of handling unexpected things is a big part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when you go into those wheelchair or stretcher trips, like you need to figure out the pickup situation and drop off situation, right? So the staircase, the ramps, and then also like whether there's folks at home to help, and then some the insurance, make sure your insurance covers certain steps, procedures. For instance, I know some providers insurance does not cover their drivers to help, like say a wheelchair patient help them from the bed or couch into the wheelchair. They can only just go into the house and then make sure the patient's already in the wheelchair. They just take wheelchairs for the transport. So those are the things you need to be very clear and with the family members who book the trips.
All right.
Sure.
And guys, I do want to open it up for questions very soon. So just if you have questions you want us to hit, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll also open up the mics a little bit in a second. I think one more question here. Or sorry, Jing, were you finishing a thought?
Yeah, this is just one situation I just learned recently when I was meeting with some providers for happy hours in the East Coast. And then like one provider was late, and she said, oh yeah, the reason I was late is because I had this kind of incident. So she was transporting a wheelchair patient in her van. And then somehow the patient slipped off the wheelchair, almost like he was like half off the wheelchair. And then like the patient said, oh yeah, can you just only a mile away, can you actually take me to just take me to the home? I'll just stay half off the wheelchair. And then she was really scared, and then she didn't know what to do. And then she actually pulled over and then trying to help the patient move up so it can sit properly in wheelchair. It took her like very long time to do it. And then like she told us at the table her story. And then there's some experienced provider said, oh yeah, next time if this happened, you should pull over right away. And then if you cannot typically the recommendations, don't handle the situation by yourself, because sometimes the patient can be really heavy. And then like you're small, that this is not so for safety reasons, don't handle it. You can call a fire department. So the EMS can come over, help you with that. So those are actually just some like tips, just so that you guys can know next time. Just make sure.
I've heard that like having a really good rider CRM is important, both to sort of market to the private pay people, but also on the operational side. Could you tell, Jing, that's in your software. Could you tell us a little bit about how you handle that and what kinds of information you recommend people store for their private pay customers?
Yeah, so those are actually when you start growing, right? So you have a lot of customers. Like really, it's a test of your memory, right? So you cannot have everything in your memory, especially like if you have multiple. Now you have probably multiple people help you schedule the trips, etc. So our software, we actually build we call the Rider CRM. So basically, you can create an account add a lot of information to your patient, for instance, whether this patient is bariatric or whether her home has ramps or steps. Okay, if she has a ramp in the back side of the house, you can all put it in there so that it's easier for you to book next time. Like, or this patient is using special wheelchairs, or they need a halter to be lifted from a couch or bed to the wheelchair, etc. So those are actually really important, especially for private pay, right? So you want to know your customer really well. So when they book the trip, they don't have to tell you all the information again, right? So what their situations, their type of wheelchairs or type of service levels, and then their trips, like destination, the addresses out there, the address they always go to, etc. So you want to present to be very friendly as well as like a friend type of providers. So that actually helps for you to get returning customers.
Got it. So I know you two both have special offers for the people at the webinar. Maybe you could just very briefly talk through those, and then I think William has sent me a question in chat, and Dusalam has his hand up, so we can jump right into those. So
Okay.
Harry, you wanna go first?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Google advertising. Part of our service is we set up and manage the Google advertising service for you, and we manage it for 30 days. So if you reach out to us and schedule a consultation, and you mentioned, Duet as how you heard about us, we're going to extend that an additional 30 days. So you'll get 60 days of management. It'll probably save you $200. But if you set up a consultation with us and tell us that you learn about our service through here, we're going to offer that. We're going to do that extension on the management side.
Great. And Jing, your software does, booking, scheduling, dispatching, billing, and everything you would need both for private pay and some other things. So tell us a little bit about, are you doing something similar to Harry?
Yeah, I'm gonna send a chat in the message. Sorry. So yeah, we are happy to offer 1 month free for any companies who are interested. I would say actually, I mean we're dispatching softwares. We help folks with bookings, scheduling, and reporting. Most importantly, reporting and the payments. So those are the important things for operating NEMT services. And I always tell people proofs in the pudding. So just book a demo with us. There's a free demo, and then we can have chat. Also happy to help you guys brainstorm your challenges, your questions, or even do a audit of your website, right? So like I'm sure Henry is happy to do that too. So just tell you how can you get started. I know actually this market needs a lot of providers. I mean, I've seen like a couple weeks ago, I helped one customer take a booking calls, and literally like there was a broker sending a vehicle like 2 hours away to take somebody just go to Walmart for an hour shopping trip. So it's like that's like $140 each way trip. So I mean, there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of needs, to be honest, in this market for providers like you and I. So I think actually we should be really collaborative, share knowledges, and we hope like to have more folks join us next time, like to exchange informations. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jing. So quick question from William Woods, who's asking sort of how do you price, how do you determine rates for private pay?
So I can go with I always feel the rate. I mean I'm on like Facebook for NEMT allowed, right? So there are always people say, hey, I have my rate. I'm gonna stick to it. Like you either pay me or my way or highway. Okay, so I always feel your rate is actually to some extent determined by your market, okay, and your competition. So yeah, I think I would say if you're brand new, right, how are you gonna do the rate? How do you decide your rate? I would do a round of calls. Okay, you can ask your friends or your cousins to help you calls. Give them a list of questions to ask. Hey, like to ask all the other providers in your market what's the price for certain type of trips, and then you can decide how you want to position. And afterwards is really a strategy question, right? Do you want to I call it penetration pricing. So a lot of people do that, like you're 10% lower than your competitors because you're new. Or I wouldn't do that. I think that's really hurting the market. What I think the smart way to do it is you can tell people, hey, actually, we are relatively new. We have a promotion going on for the next month or so. So you got $10 off. So you have like a time bound discount, so you don't really hurt your market. And then you can also present a more favorable pricing to your customers.
And we actually take that offer. So and we use that in the advertisement itself on Google. So if you'll see the ad, it'll say 10% off your first ride, or the first 5 miles are free, right? We put that information into the advertisement itself, so people automatically kind of get the FOMO to say, okay, let me go ahead and book the trip so I can take advantage of the promotional offer. But yeah, you hit it right on the head. Like in terms of rates, the market is going to dictate what is the sweet spot, and it's going to change, but the market is generally going to dictate what is the sweet spot from a per mileage perspective. I'll give you an example. I had a client who had just started out and they were like, I have no idea what to set my mileage rate to, right? So understanding what your cost is per trip you want to make at least that, right? So understand,
Morning.
okay, for me to drive for 20 miles, what is my fuel cost? What is my overhead cost? And then bake that, and then you kind of work backwards to say, okay, this is how much I need to charge to cover this trip. Now, if you start putting that out in the marketplace and people are like, oh, I can't afford this, right? Then you know, okay, I have to understand and try to reduce some of my cost on the back end. But if it's like, hey, I'm charging $50 a ride and I'm getting 100% conversion rate on everybody who's then like, okay, maybe I need to bump this up a little bit in order to build in some profit margin into that rate.
Great.
Okay, so I think James, you're going to send out a summary and then maybe recordings to everybody,
Yep.
on the
Because we went over a lot, and sometimes it takes kind of rewatching it and say, "Oh, I forgot about this part," right? So I think it'll be definitely beneficial to rewatch this webinar and kind of build some ideas of how you want to attack your business, and reach out to Jing or I, and we can get things going for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Hope you had a good time.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yep. Thank you guys.